Hey, Slapdog! The Brainiacs are ready.
Here we go. Welcome into Leather Brains. Your host here, Slapdog, and it is about to be the 4th of July. I pray that all you brainiacs out there do not lose any fingers in the coming days. Somebody is going to somewhere, and I be safe. Be safe. Have a good time. Don't lose any fingers. We're here today to not give you any more 4th of July advice, but to talk about NFL football. Before we do that, I want to let all you brainiacs out there know we are looking for writers/bloggers for our website, leatherbrains.com. If you might be interested, I highly recommend you go over to our Twitter page, and right there, smack dab in the very front, it says blog/writer. Click the link, shoot in an application, and you might be able to join the Leather Brains team. We're looking to expand and want to get some good content on our website. So if that might be something that you're interested in, highly recommend you go check that out. Now today, we're going to be talking about NFL football. That's what we do all the time, but I am not alone. I have a full crew here with me. I got Scotty Del Rey, Alan Casanova Castro, and the Big Yeti himself. I'm excited to talk football with you guys. I do have one more thing that I did forget to mention, however, and that is next week, our episode will be on Wednesday. So the reason being is we will all be out of town. So Wednesday, next week is when the episode will be. It will not be Tuesday like it usually is, and I just wanted to let everybody know. Let's jump into news, boys. Let's talk about the Giants. The New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll has taken over play calling from the offensive coordinator Mike Kafka. I think this is great news. I think Brian Daboll was the Josh Allen whisperer, and it probably needs to go back to Brian Daboll, but what do you guys think about this?
I can't get over how Mike Kafka looks like the male version of the name Mia Khalifa. I think
I don't know what Mike Kafka looks like.
No, just the name. Just the name.
Mike
Kafka.
Mike Kafka does not look like Mia Khalifa at
Well,
all. For anybody wondering.
Initials, MK.
Yeah, Mike Kafka.
This guy looks about as far away from Mia Khalifa as one could probably get.
I almost had to explain to my wife why I was Googling Mia Khalifa. It's Mike Kafka. Is who
Mike Kafka. He's not very good looking. I'm gonna be honest with you guys.
What are you talking
In fact,
about?
he's rather
not
ugly.
bad. This
He's a
picture I have
stunner.
right here, he's not bad.
He's
I
licking
think
his
he looks
lips
like
on
a
this
thumb.
That one
A
looks
couple
good.
cocktails. I don't know.
He could turn
Sober?
it.
0, 1, or 2.
1. He's a 1.
Okay, you gotta get a couple
He
drinks.
kind of
in.
looks like the guy from Split.
Never seen Split.
I've never seen Split.
Yeah, kind of. I can see that.
I think he's ugly.
Split's
and I don't think he looks
actually
like
a pretty
Mia
good
Khalifa.
movie.
Okay,
You should watch
so he took over the play calling duty. Skinny Brian Daboll took over the play calling duty. Now
Yeah.
that he's skinny, not eating as much, he has more time to call offensive plays.
He's more confident now. He got skinny
Yeah.
and he's like, get the fuck out of my
He
office.
doesn't get winded as easily.
Yeah, he saw his wiener and he's like, "Oh, boys,
I forgot about this thing.
in business."
Back in business.
All right, but honestly, isn't it kind of weird that a play caller like Brian Daboll, who he earned a head coaching job with the Giants due to his play calling in Buffalo, was not already calling plays? Like, isn't that a little weird to you guys?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I mean, it also, like, if it was anyone besides Brian Daboll, this is just the typical, the coach is doing everything he can to keep his job. Like, that's just what normally happens when the franchise is struggling. But again, like what Yeti said, like, why the hell wasn't Brian Daboll calling plays? This is the whole reason you wanted him. Like, the whole reason you wanted him on the offense. And instead you're just like, you can be the head coach, but you're not making any of the decisions until you lose some weight.
But that's the turning point. I don't know. I agree with everything you said, Scotty, but I also think about it like I don't know what the job duties of a head coach are. I mean, in broad general terms we do, but like on a day-to-day basis, do you have time to sit there and like scope out the offense? And I would think that if you make it a priority, then you would. But if you're not making it a priority because you're doing X, Y, and Z other activities to try and be successful, then maybe you don't. But like you said, that's why the Giants wanted Brian Daboll, is because of what he did with Josh Allen. And instead you get Mike Kafka, and it clearly isn't working.
I mean, you know the coaches that have their hand in it, like Reed or Shanahan or McVay, like those successful offenses. And like you said, that's why they brought him in. So it is a little confusing, but I agree with Matt 100%. This is a guy that's knowing it's like a make it or break it time, and he'd rather have his hands on it than not. You know, you'd want to control that destiny than just be an innocent bystander to it all.
Yeah.
Well, let's rub a crystal ball here and look into the future. Is Brian Daboll going to be the head coach going into the 2025 season?
Daniel Jones is going to have a borderline MVP year. He's going to
Oh my
read all the
God.
stuff that we've said, that
Oh.
I personally have said about him, which is that everyone's underestimating him. And he's going to say, Scotty's got my back. I'm going to put the team on my back. He's going to stay healthy, and he's going to do awesome. That's my optimistic view.
You guys think Daniel Jones is MVP worthy over there?
I don't know what the hell we're talking about anymore. You were asking about Brian Daboll, and now I'm being asked about Daniel Jones being MVP.
Brian
He
Daboll is really
signed-
the question I want to answer because that's what we're talking about.
So he signed a 5-year deal in 22. So it's about halfway through. So I guess it kind of depends on how much is on there. But if he doesn't stick around, it's 100% because of Daniel Jones. I'll agree with that. Like if he keeps going, it's because Daniel Jones figured it out. But if Daniel Jones shits the bed, Daboll's probably out the door too.
I think it largely depends on how the Commanders do the season as well, because the Commanders have a rookie head coach and they have a first-year head coach as well in Dan Quinn. So I think if the Commanders come out and they are taking care of business and they finish ahead of the Giants, like if they're, I don't know, like 4-3, the Commanders are 4-3 and the Giants are, 2-5 at that point, I think the media is going to be kind of like, uh-oh, here we go, Brian Daboll, like you're on the hot seat, like your time is getting close to an end here. And if Daniel Jones is also sucking as part of that losing streak, then he's going to have to make a switch. And if that doesn't work, bye, Brian Daboll.
Yeah, I mean, all jokes aside, Daniel Jones is holding Brian Daboll's career with the Giants in his hands like a baby bird. Like if he comes out and outperforms expectations, I think Brian Daboll will stick around. And if they suck because Daniel Jones sucks or gets injured again, I think Brian Daboll's gone.
Yep. And I think that's why he took over the offense. You got to figure out how you can win with Daniel Jones, because I don't think it's like the conventional way. I don't think Daniel Jones can do it like, we'll just hand the keys over to, Daboll can't just hand the keys over to Daniel Jones and expect it to run smoothly. So I think he's got to scheme up ways, because Daniel Jones can move. We've seen him run. We've seen him trip himself while he was trying to run 60 yards. So he can do it. I think they have to put themselves in positions to do it, and not having Saquon underscores and highlights that 3 times that they got to figure out how to get him on the move, because teams are just going to be pinning their ears back on him.
Well, what you guys are saying is that it relies on Daniel Jones. And so that kind of tells me that you guys do believe that Daniel Jones will be the starting quarterback this year, because there's a lot of media fodder that Drew Lock might be that guy. It seems to me like all of you guys vehemently agree that it's going to be Daniel Jones instead.
I stand by
It's
what I've
gotta
said
be.
many times, that they're paying him so much money, and if he sucks, they're going to get rid of him, and they have to justify it either way. They have to either justify keeping him, or they have to justify getting rid of him on that contract. Either way, he's got to be on the field to do that.
Okay. Let's go over to Brandon Aiyuk. He is expected to play for the 49ers in 2024. I feel like this whole podcast should just be the Brandon Aiyuk podcast the last few weeks, because he has been the center of attention, and also there's not a lot going on in NFL media. So of course, Brandon Aiyuk, he's stirring the pot right now. But San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk has a positive meeting with the 49ers last week, and Aiyuk plans on playing for the 49ers this season. Yeti, you said something last week that is still resonating with me that I just want to highlight here is, this would be bad if Brandon Aiyuk didn't play, right? Like, and can you maybe kind of say what you said on last week's show again for anybody who didn't hear it, as to why it would not be beneficial for Brandon Aiyuk to sit out?
Hold on, let me rewind my brain a little bit to last week. I said Brandon Aiyuk would be hurting himself quite a bit if he didn't play this season, because Ricky Pearsall, a rookie wide receiver who the 49ers drafted this past draft, this in March, April, whenever the fuck that was. If Ricky Pearsall comes into Brandon Aiyuk's position and he balls out, teams are going to look at Brandon Aiyuk and be like, okay, so he's a product of the Kyle Shanahan offense, and he's not really this elite wide receiver that deserves $30 million a year like he wants. So if he were to sit out, it could be an issue for his monies.
Agreed. And I don't know if you guys have anything else to add to that, but I I think the conclusion we came to at the end of the conversation last week was that Brandon Aiyuk would be playing for the 49ers because it's the best case scenario for everybody involved.
Yeah, the real question is he going to be gone after this? I think it seems like a foregone conclusion now that he's leaving the 49ers after this season for sure. Because I don't think with their cap space situation, they're not going to be able to afford to pay him top dollar, even if he balls out all year, and then also pay Purdy in a couple of years. So I think they're going to have to make this decision now. So I think this is going to be his last season with them for sure.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to slide in here as well is totally not Ayuk related, but just the news with CeeDee Lamb that he said he was also going to hold out from Cowboys camp if he didn't get a new deal, which also makes this very interesting because now, there's you have the Cowboys and the 49ers who, hate each other, both looking at these wide receivers. And one, I think the Cowboys need CeeDee Lamb more than the Niners need Ayuk, but I think the Cowboys are going to have to pay. And, he said in a quote that if he doesn't get the contract he wants, he's going to ask for a trade. And so now the Cowboys are on all sorts of microscope. It's that time of the year now where if guys aren't getting paid, they're not showing up to camp. So we'll see how many more of these trickle in.
Okay, you mentioned CeeDee Lamb and the holdout that is potentially coming. So let's discuss that very briefly. What do we believe that would be and I say that, do we believe that CeeDee Lamb holding out would be more favorable for CeeDee Lamb than somebody like Aiyuk? Because we all know that Brandon Aiyuk, him holding out would not be good, but is there actual potential benefit for CeeDee Lamb to just say, you know what, I'm not playing. I'll sit here on the sideline and I'll wait for you to either trade me or pay me?
These are my favorite parts of the episode.
Just when we're all
this is
just
a podcast.
Yeah, this is a podcast.
We're looking at each other. CeeDee Lamb has way more leverage just because of the options that the Cowboys have at the skill position groups. They don't have anything for sure all over, and I think CeeDee Lamb's one of the few spots where they actually have something that they're like, okay, this is a weapon we have in need. So the Cowboys are going to have to pay. They can't afford to get rid of him. Otherwise, they might as well just kiss Dak goodbye as well, because I don't know how he's going to be successful either. So it's going to present a lot of problems if they don't pay him. But I think, unlike Aiyuk, CeeDee Lamb has a ton of leverage because he's really the only guy in that room. He stands out.
Yeah, we look at the 49ers offense, and you can remove a guy like Aiyuk, and that offense would still be top 5, easy. But you remove CeeDee Lamb from the Cowboys offense, they're left with an old Zeke. They're left with Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson, and maybe Dak. Like, really? If I'm CeeDee Lamb, I'm talking to Jerry Jones, and I'm like, I am your offense. Like, I'm going to be selfish and say, I'm your offense. This offense goes through me. I want $35 million a year like Justin Jefferson got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for reference, Lamb, since he's entered the league, ranks 5th in both yards and catches, over 5,000 yards and almost 400 catches since he's been in the league. So, I mean, he's been super productive. It'll be interesting if he goes after that Justin Jefferson 4-year, $140 million deal, or how close he gets. But I imagine he'll come in just under that if they do get that deal done. But I assume that's just what the Cowboys are going to have to pay him.
It'll be interesting. We were kind of talking about it this weekend and it's no surprise the Cowboys have decisions they're going to have to make. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak Prescott. I don't like the Cowboys. I've been very vocal about that, and I really don't like Dak Prescott. But when you look at his numbers, I don't know how you justify not trying to do everything possible to keep him. But I also completely understand not wanting to keep him because you also need to pay CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. And me as an NFL analyst and a fantasy guy and X, Y, and Z when it comes to NFL, I'm having a tough time trying to figure out what I would do in that situation. And we sometimes think that the GM's role is just very easy. And it's like, why the hell didn't you do this? And this is one that's really stumped me, where I'm like, man, I really don't know how you go about trying to solve all these problems because obviously – you mentioned CeeDee Lamb and how the offense goes through him. That's true, but if you don't have anybody to get him the ball, you also have problems. And if you can't pay Dak Prescott, what do you do with the quarterback position? And then, of course, Micah Parsons is the Cowboys' primary defensive player that needs to get paid. So I really don't know. I mean, have you guys had any conclusions about or any thoughts as to how they would even try and fix this entire mess that they're about to get hit with?
I mean, most teams are having to do this right now. They're all trying to figure this out. I know Burrow and the Bengals and their wide receivers that they're trying to pay. They have to figure that out. The Vikings just figured it out with Jefferson, trying to keep him in town. I think the teams, when you're at that level of production, you have to pay him. But this is what exacerbates the Cowboys situation is they haven't seen any of the playoff success like some of these teams that are having to try to figure it out. And I know the next guy we're about to talk about is also kind of in that like, hey, we're trying to see what these results are like, but from a statistical standpoint, you're talking about top tier production and it's hard to walk it out the door. Cause I know even over the past few weeks, it's how do you replace it? Sure. You let them walk, you save some money, but how are you replacing that? Are you just throwing in the towel? You got to figure it out. And the salary cap's going up. They'll have to restructure some guys' deals. They're going to have to let some veterans walk, but generally you try to keep that quarterback, wide receiver in check. That way you can continue to produce because this is what the NFL is turning into. The rules are changing to that. You can't be too aggressive with the wide receivers so they stay healthier longer. You can't hit the quarterback so they stay healthier longer. So those are just two places where you definitely want to continue to invest because they'll stay on the field longer. So
if you were to choose, you'd let Micah go.
If I had to cut one of the three, yeah, I would try to trade him.
Scotty,
it's an impossible situation because the way I look at it, and we've had this conversation before, but when I look at the irreplaceable aspects of that offense, Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb are in that category. And Dak Prescott, though he's always been good, is like, okay, he hasn't gotten you over the hump. And the Cowboys just as a franchise are in this situation where they're like, we're always competitive, but we just can't do it. Like they're always right there, but they can't do it. And a lot of times when you're talking about a football team that's always right on the cusp, the quarterback is the one that should take the blame because the quarterback is the most important player on the field.
Yeah. And for the Micah Parsons discussion, which he is, I mean, if you talk about talent, he's probably the most talented of the three, like without question. Like he's just a freak athlete. He has a high motor. He's so good at what he does. But if you look even at the Super Bowl last year, you had Bosa for the 49ers, he didn't record a single sack. He was largely irrelevant most of the game. And good offensive coordinators, teams with good offensive lines, they'll figure out a way to neutralize those edge rushers. Like they learn how to do it. These guys aren't stupid, especially when you're playing good triggermen. And I think for a team like Dallas in the NFC East, where you don't generally have that top down, except for the Eagles, and you get to play those other teams 4 times, like, yeah, you're going to see statistical bumps from some of those edge rushers. But like edge rushers, unfortunately, like they're necessary. But I think the way the NFL is right now, if I was a GM, I got to spend on my offense. Like my offense has to be humming, and we can figure out the defense. And you can mask some gaps on the defense, but you can't mask if you don't have a good quarterback or you don't have any outside weapons.
Sorry, go ahead, Yeti.
The Cowboys knew this was going to happen too, right? They knew that they would have to pay Dak, Micah, and CeeDee around the same time. So I guess my bigger question would be to the front office of what were you doing during the draft? Because I'm not saying you're going to replace a guy like Micah Parsons or CeeDee Lamb through the draft, but you can draft a guy this year, last year, or a year after you drafted CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons and been like, okay, these guys are going to help us, but because we might lose out on our superstars. We can develop these guys with Micah Parsons, with CeeDee Lamb. They can learn from the top 2 elite guys. And if we have to work out contracts with both of them at the same time or whatever, we might be okay to let one of these guys walk because we have drafted well and developed well.
Yeah,
and I would argue that they have it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the meme around the Cowboys for several years now has been like, what are you doing? Like what are you doing? Like in the off seasons, what are you doing? Especially this year, what are they doing? Nothing. Like it's just been a question mark the entire off season. Nobody has any idea. But the only other point that I was going to make, and it's more to Alan's point, is one thing you have to worry about is if you decide, you rank those 3 superstars and you say, well, Dak's the odd man out. Like, we got to get rid of him. What does that do for CeeDee Lamb? You can sign him to an extension, but is he going to be pissed off with having to work with some unproven quarterback or a new quarterback coming in and they don't have that production? And then you might ruin 2 stars instead of just 1. So that also leads me to believe that if they're in this cap situation and they have to decide, maybe Micah Parsons is actually the odd man out just because you want to keep that relationship intact and not mess with your brand new superstar, high-paid wide receiver or on a brand new contract and some quarterback that you have no chemistry with.
I mean, you can make that same argument for Justin Jefferson, though, could you not? Where he just lost his quarterback and is now playing with J.J. McCarthy / Sam Darnold. So, and I guess what? At the end of the day, he still got paid. And I think that's really, that's the reality of the situation is they want to get paid. They want to get the bag. They want to get the money. That's what they're playing the sport for. Is yeah, you can love it as much as you want, but if you were only getting paid $100 each time to come out and play this game, none of these players will come do it. So that's where I think some of it is just I want the money, right? Another thing that I think a lot of people don't really think about necessarily that could come into play and probably will come into play is franchise tags. You could franchise tag one of these guys, and then, yeah, you run the risk of them sitting, but then they get penalized for it. And honestly, I think that's something that probably will end up happening is they'll franchise tag somebody, and then they'll either try and trade them out or they'll ride them out one more year while they try and figure out what they want to do. That's what I see happening is the most probable situation because I don't think very obviously the Cowboys don't want to lose any of these players.
Yeah. And Malik Hooker was just on a podcast recently, I think a couple of days ago. And they were talking about this exact thing. And he said a couple quotes, which were pretty interesting. But he also said, hey, we got to prioritize CeeDee Lamb for what he does for us. And the headline of the quote was Micah's going to have to wait. So I think the team knows it. The team knows like how the NFL is running. They're already saying it, which is kind of dumb to say out loud, but it's already out there. So yeah, it's just going to be what's the market for Micah? Do they try to move him? Do you try to get something out of him if a team really needs that help? Like if a contender is like looking for that final piece and you just do that? Because I think that would be the smart thing. The dumbest thing they could do is try to keep it together as long as they can and just let him walk for nothing.
The Falcons need to get Micah Parsons.
I was literally going to say, the Falcons were the first ones that came to mind where it's like, if they can prove that they're going to be very competitive this year, why not make that phone call and see what you can do? Because that's
huge.
Yeah, that's one of the main places where they're hurting right now. So that'd be fun. But let's pivot over. Let's talk about the Dolphins quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. He is not expected to get a contract that meets current market value, gentlemen. Can you believe that? Tua Tagovailoa himself.
Okay, you said you're going to hawk to it. That was way better than I think you even told us how you're going to do it. So
I told you I was going to lean into it, man.
No, that was a good hawk. That was a good hawk
you.
Tua. Very good hawk Tua.
I appreciate that. He's got 1 year left on his rookie contract, gentlemen. Last season, he led the league in passing yards and logged career highs in passing touchdowns, as well as completion percentage. I lean towards the fact that you have a gentleman named Tyreek Hill on your team, and that's why some of those numbers might be extrapolated a little bit from a statistical standpoint. But nonetheless, the stats are there. So what happened in 2024 for Tua to lock in an extension with Miami? What needs to happen?
I first and foremost needs to stay healthy. I mean, we've kind of moved on from that big concern with Tua, but going into last year, we didn't know if he was going to be able to finish the season or if it was going to end his career. And if I'm in the front office, I'm like, do we really want to spend all this money and try and lock in this guy and just forget about the quarterback position when we have a quarterback that one concussion could completely derail everything? I don't know. So, play on the field aside, I think there is a lot to be concerned about with Tua, and I would certainly be wary if I was the Dolphins.
Yeah, I would say he has to do more of the same as they did last year. I think there's just like, and this has nothing to do with the contract or the stats, but there's just like, I feel like something missing from him where I'm like, I just don't know if he's like that. They always say that he's got that dog in him, and I just don't know if he has it. Like
it's because he throws the ball with his left hand. It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
You got to be an extra dog to do that. You got to be Michael Vick to pull that off.
That's got to be
have a fifth leg, baby.
I think he's got to do more of what he did last year statistically. I think he's already kind of locked in. I think we talk about this. If you're the Dolphins, let's say you're like, no, we're going to move on from Tua. What do? You're going to be competitive this year, so you're not getting a top draft pick. What quarterbacks are out there that you're going to be able to get that can be serviceable to his degree? Like more often than not. Yeah, actually,
except Gardner Minshew's on a 2-year deal.
That makes sense for Miami. They might actually let him play in jorts in Miami if he was the starting quarterback. Like that would be the only acceptable way. But there's just nothing they can do. Like a lot of teams are doing this. What are you going to do? How are you going to replace it? You got to keep him.
My counter argument is this: at what point do you? This could be the point where NFL teams start to say, you know what, you're not worth it. Like Trevor Lawrence is a wonderful example. Trevor Lawrence has potential, but Trevor Lawrence is currently one of the top quarterback being paid right now. And it's like, you're not worth that. We all know that Trevor Lawrence isn't worth that. But because it's the situation of what do you do, maybe this is the tipping point where they're saying, hey, look, we know that you're not capable of it. And guess, like even in conversations, can you guys sit here and say that the reason that his numbers were not so great is because of the team around him? If you took Tua Tagovailoa and you put him on the Chiefs, you don't find that success at all. You don't.
You could say the same thing for Brock Purdy.
Maybe.
You could, maybe.
You could.
Jury's still out on
Well,
that.
The jury is still out on that one.
It's chicken and the egg. You're only as as good as the sum of your parts if you're a quarterback. Like if you don't have anybody that can actually score, it's really hard to score touchdowns. But then also, somebody's got to get the ball to those guys to score those touchdowns, and he's doing a good job at it. We just said he's top 5 in all these categories. He was 5th in QBR last year. Like it's not like he was losing them games necessarily, but I think there is that push where it's like, I don't know if he is that guy. They were a game away from winning the division. They had a lot of injuries last year, which everybody does, but they were a game away from winning that division last year from a surging Bills team down the stretch. And, they had to go into Kansas City where it was like infamously cold and people had like hypothermia. So it was just, I think it was a culmination of things. Like not many people are going to win in Arrowhead when it's below 0. And that can't just be all on Tua. There was a lot of people not stepping up in that game specifically. But I think even so, that's what you wanted out of that team. You got into the playoffs, you had a chance, you have weapons. And I think if they get rid of Tua, the problem that the Dolphins are going to have is I think they're going to lose the locker room. And you're going to hear people like Tyreek Hill, you're going to hear people like Waddle be disgruntled and be like, no, I want out too then. Now you just lost your whole team. It's not like these people are just going to sit in a cubicle and just take it. These wide receivers will talk and they will demand things. And I think getting rid of Tua will do a disservice to that team.
Is there another team right now that would pay Tua market value to be their quarterback? Like, I mean, at the end of the season, is there going to be like a hunt for Tua?
The Raiders.
Oh, they love the
Steelers. Maybe the Jets. Maybe the Giants. Maybe the Seahawks.
Yeah, Seahawks came to mind
and,
too.
Speaking of the Seahawks, they're one of those teams that were in the situations that the Dolphins might be in if Tua walks, right? Seattle was a competitive team that wasn't going to get a high draft pick, so they couldn't draft a quarterback in the first round when they had Russ and they had a good defense. But they relied on picking up a aging quarterback like Geno Smith and having Geno Smith come out and have a career year. And then if you look at Tampa Bay, they're kind of in a similar light too. When they had Tom Brady, they had a good defense. They were just coming off a playoff push. They weren't going to have any high draft picks to get a quarterback to replace Tom Brady, but they went out and they signed a guy like Baker Mayfield, and he happened to have a career year with them as well, and he just got paid too. So I think teams like the Dolphins and the Cowboys, if they let somebody like Dak or Tua go, they better be looking for those older quarterbacks that might have a little juice left in them, because they're not going to get those highly touted draft picks to get a quarterback.
Smells like Jacoby Brissett.
Oh,
I mean, honestly, like I think that's a realistic possibility. Is like you say, hey man, we don't think you're worth $55 million a year, and honestly, I don't think Tua is either. Like and that's kind of where the Dolphins are. That's what they're saying is like, hey, you're not worth this. We know that, and yeah, we want you to stick around, but we're gonna offer you $50 million a year. Take it or leave it. And if he leaves it, yeah, you're kind of left in a void. And I think the Seahawks is a great example, Yeti. I'm really glad that you brought that up of a team that said we're gonna get rid of our star guy because we don't want to pay you the amount that you want. We'll send you over to the Broncos, and we see the entire situation that happened there play out. But they went and got Geno. Geno's serviceable, and they're just kind of figuring it out as they go. Because the reality of the situation is the Cowboys and the Dolphins are not going to have high enough draft picks to reload at the quarterback position. So you kind of have to either draw your line in the sand and say, we're going to pay this guy even though we know he's not worth that much, or we're going to explore the free market and see if there's somebody that can help us bridge the gap, and or we either lose so bad that we now have a good enough draft pick to get a quarterback, and or this guy can still get Tyreek Hill the ball, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can do the things they need to do to succeed.
Yeah, I don't know. I think even if you give him the 50, let's say you get him that $50 million a year mark, he's still below Jalen Hurts, Goff, Herbert, all those guys. So, you're acknowledging that he isn't in that upper echelon, which Trevor Lawrence getting Joe Burrow's per year average is still wild to me. But I think even giving him 50 is fine. Like, I think because it's going to keep stacking. So even if you sign him to like a 4 or 5 year deal and you give him that 50, it's still average. You're still saying, yeah, you're top 10 ish, but after a few years, that's not even going to be a top 10 quarterback per year salary. So if I'm the Dolphins, you pay it, you move on. because I don't think you're going to be able to replace what he is giving you at the moment with the talent you have around it. It's either you sacrifice the whole team to win later, or you just suck it up with Tua and you can still have the possibility of winning now.
Yeah, the problem with that is they should have come to that conclusion like a month ago.
No.
Right, because the longer they wait, the more expensive he gets, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's all quarterbacks. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is a perfect example of that. And I wouldn't pay him. I don't think he's worth it. And I think that, Tyreek Hill was great last year, but at some point he's also going to fall off. We know that. Yeah, he's super fast. Yeah, he's super athletic, but like he is aging too. And what do you got? Another 3 years max? 2 to 3 years?
He's 30.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like that's typically the age where we really start to see wide receivers fall off. And that's coming a lot sooner than I think people realize. And so when that does happen, now you're left with a mediocre quarterback that you're overspending on, a Jalen Waddle who is now your wide receiver one, and Jalen Waddle's a good player. And then what do you do? You're sitting here trying to make all these wide receivers happy, and when the reality of the situation is one of these wide receivers probably isn't going to be in the league for more than 2 years of relevance. Fingers crossed. So I wouldn't pay it. I would say, hey, look, 50 is the deal. You want it, take it. If not, we understand. We'll go look at free agency. And I think that, obviously we're going to find this out when the Dolphins have to figure out what they want to do here. But if I was the Dolphins organization, that's what I would do, because I don't think Tua is going to take you to that next level. I don't.
What's crazy is Tua has a 64% winning percentage in the NFL since he's joined. This is higher than Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers. And yet we're sitting here saying Tua isn't worth a $50 million per year contract or a market contract at this point.
Yeah, because I was right at 50.
If the market's 55, anywhere from 50 to 55, okay. I'm going to give Tua that money because he is a proven winner. We can make all the excuses in the world. It's the offense. It's Tyreek Hill. It's Jalen Waddle. But the truth of the matter is somebody's going to pay that. And unless the Dolphins have a true backup plan, they're going to be fucked. And they're going to be looking back in 5 years if they let Tua go of saying, what could have happened if we kept Tua?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, we'll close with this question that I posed to you is, would you rather have Brock Purdy or Tua as a quarterback?
Tua. If I'm the Dolphins, Tua knows the offense and my players are already familiar with him. And like Alan said,
I'm talking the Raiders.
With the Raiders.
No, I'm not. No, he's already no. Like we're just talking for your team.
Aidan O'Connell.
He's a company man.
Oh my God. No, like what is the better quarterback? Remove the players, remove the situation. Which quarterback is a better quarterback, Tua or Brock Purdy?
Give me Tua. I think Tua has shown that he can complete the ball at an extremely high rate, but he can also make all the throws, whether it's a 5-yard throw or a 30-yard throw. Tua has shown me enough to the point where I'm comfortable with Tua as my starting quarterback over Brock.
Yeah, the reason it's a hard question is because they're kind of in the same boat where you're like, is it them or is it the offense? And it's a little bit difficult to navigate. I think Tua's been doing it a little bit longer. I think I'd agree with Yeti, but ultimately either one of those could bite you in the ass because we don't
they both could.
know.
They both could. I would take Purdy. I would take Purdy over Tua. But once again, I think there's enough arguments on both sides to make a definitive statement for one way or the other. And at the end of the day, you still could be left holding the smoking gun and your team could not be successful. Alan, who are you taking? You taking Tua as well?
Shit. I'm probably going to take Brock at this point. If I just like all things equal and I'm starting a team, I'd probably take Brock Purdy as my starting quarterback right now.
I would.
Mainly just because, the things that are hidden, like injury, he's had ups and downs, and I think Purdy's been solid. He looks like he has the head on his shoulders that I would want to start at quarterback. He didn't seem to get too rattled. He was a few plays away from winning a Super Bowl, even though his team was very talented. And so I it's close, but that's something that I would definitely lean towards.
The concussions do
I mean, you're the king of
Makes
them.
you-
You
I
know,
was gonna say,
you know
can
better
give
than
us-
anybody else.
Can you tell us what it's like?
What it's like to have a concussion?
No,
No,
just
I don't remember.
what it's like to live this.
Nice.
Oh shit! Let's talk about Joe Burrow, gentlemen. The Bengals are comfortable with Joe Burrow's health outlook for this upcoming season after he suffered a season-ending wrist injury in Week 11 of last season. I've seen him wearing, in some of the videos that are being put out, he's wearing a little brace on his wrist to make sure that nothing goes awry. This is a tale as old as time. This is a tale that I think every single year we have this same conversation about Joe Burrow and his health and how if he could just stay healthy. But the fact of the matter is Joe Burrow struggles to stay healthy. Great quarterback. Wonderful. He is a good quarterback, but gosh dang it, he can't stay healthy. While the Bengals don't have any health concerns, do you guys have some health concerns with Joe Burrow going into this season?
I just want him to stay healthy. I just want to watch Joe Burrow kick ass. Like it's fun. It's fun to watch, and it's very annoying that he keeps getting derailed by all these injuries. But I do have to say, every time I see him do his stupid fashion shows where he's wearing half a suit jacket, like
I liked it. I wanted him to keep unbuttoning that thing.
I just wish he'd stop doing that and stay healthy. And then
He's been watching too much Caleb Williams.
Yeah. I don't like I don't like the direction the culture of the league is going, where it's like we're just going to put bikinis on our players and see what happens, and everybody's going to love it for some reason.
I was looking at Joey.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just sexualizing Mr. Burrow. Go ahead.
Go, Yeti.
The truth of the matter with Joe Burrow, though, is he's gotten hurt every single year that he's been in the NFL. You look at his rookie season, he tore his ACL. The following year, he broke a finger, and then he strained his knee in the playoffs. Third year, same deal. Knee injury, and then he entered training camp with the calf injury. And then last season, we all know the story, his wrists, ligament, whatever. He's missed time every single year that he's been in the NFL, and that is a huge concern. If I'm the Bengals, I am looking to shore up my backup quarterback position because at this point it's guaranteed that Burrow's going to miss at least 2 games a year.
Has anybody told Joe Burrow about milk?
Yeah, he's got
the product
glass
of milk.
bones and paper skin.
This is just I don't know. I have, obviously being a Chiefs fan, I have my thoughts on the Bengals and Joe Burrow, but I think the aura of Joe Burrow is largely based on if you look at the teams that he's been on, even in the game that they won in Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl, it wasn't necessarily because Joe Burrow was kicking ass. His defense played lights out in the second half, turned Mahomes over in overtime, and gave him 20 yards to kick a field goal and win it. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, Joe Burrow! He is God's gift." And he's an amazing quarterback, Heisman winning quarterback. He also has super talented wide receiver room. So why are we not putting Joe Burrow in the same conversation that we put those other quarterbacks in, like a Tua, like a Brock Purdy, where you're like, okay, well, let's see when maybe he doesn't have this. Let's see when maybe he also doesn't have that. Because Joe Burrow holds onto the ball quite often. He holds onto it for a very long time, which causes some of these injuries, or he puts himself in these weird predicaments with his body. But largely, Joe Burrow's whole career right now is based off of his defense playing lights out in Kansas City. In my opinion, that's anybody's thoughts and feelings about him is largely based on that one singular game and getting to the Super Bowl. That was it. But I think if you're a Bengals fan, you're still holding on to the hope of what he could be, which he has shown flashes of. And obviously at LSU, he had all the skills, but it's as those things get further and further in the rear view and things are getting tougher and tougher, and he has to go out there and do this all the time, and maybe his body isn't holding up, at what point are you like, okay, this might just not ever happen with him? That one Super Bowl we got to was magical, but it may not just, it might not happen. And I don't know when that tipping point happens for the Bengals, but he's still, I would say, top 5 quarterback in the league right now, but mainly just because of what he's done in his career. But he's got to stay healthy, because if he can't do that, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, him and Daniel Jones, man, they're one and the same.
Oh my God! All right. Well, we're talking about quarterbacks. Let's talk about Raiders quarterbacks. Yeti, you had already mentioned that Aidan O'Connell is the guy for the Raiders. There's been some chatter over on Twitter that Aidan O'Connell right now probably has the slight edge over Gardner Minshew in this Raiders quarterback competition. Cool. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Aidan O'Connell is a long-term solution. I also don't think Gardner Minshew is a long-term solution. I'm rooting for Gardner. He's my new Ryan Fitzpatrick.
This is just proof that I am further proof. There's lots of proof that I am not capable of being an NFL GM, because if I watch these two gentlemen walk up to my desk and say, "Which one of us are you starting?" Not even a question. Like, you look at Aidan O'Connell and I'm like, you're not gonna play football. Like, you're not gonna play on me. Like, I don't. Like, he was fine, but like, Jesus, like, it's Gardner Minshew. He's awesome. He's great as that bridge quarterback. I don't think even Yeti, I don't think, is sitting here saying that Aidan O'Connell is their franchise guy for the next 10 years. So it's like, you have this awesome bridge quarterback who's a proven bridge quarterback. Why are we having this conversation?
Who starts more games this year for the Raiders?
Gardner
O'Connell
Minshew.
or Gardner?
Gardner Minshew. If I was a betting man, and I am, I think that Aidan O'Connell is going to start the season. And I think the reason being is because he was their starter last year. He's got the buy-in from, Devontae Adams and their team. But as soon as he starts shitting the bed, and he will, at that point, then they can go ahead and make the swap and say, hey, you're not it. We've seen what you can do. We're going to go ahead and throw Gardner Minshew in here and let him run out the rest of the season. And I think that's if I was to bet, that's what I would say probably happens.
From a Raiders perspective, you don't know how much time they put in with Aidan O'Connell last year with like the full install and the package, and the plays and what they were doing. And down the stretch, it didn't look like he had every play available to him. And so I'll be interested to see if Aidan can actually push the ball downfield, because you don't want to piss off Devontae Adams either. And we know Minshew will let it fly. So at some point, they're just going to be like, all right, if this guy can't push it down the field, we got to get the guy in that can actually give us a chance, especially if the offense is just stuck.
Us all with stats right now. I could
go ahead, bring out the book of stats, Yeti.
I mean, Slaps is a new resident Raiders fan, so I don't know how much more I need to say regarding that situation. But I mean, truth of the matter is, Aidan O'Connell, while he had his ups and downs last year, notably against Kansas City when he threw for 62 yards.
In a win, baby.
Yeah, the Chiefs still
winner.
Yeah, that's a W in my fucking book. So anyway, Aidan O'Connell, he really did come on towards a later part of the season. I'm not going to sit here and say that Aidan O'Connell is a good quarterback. I think he's a mid quarterback, but when you compare him to Gardner Minshew, it's a mid off, honestly. Like, people, I think, are looking at Gardner Minshew as his persona of being like a good quarterback for some reason. Amen. But if you look at his stats from last season compared to Aidan O'Connell, they're one and the same. One just played more games, and that's Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew went 7-6 last season as a starter for the Colts. He averaged 220 passing yards per game, so it's not like he's this elite passing quarterback by any means either. Aidan O'Connell, he went 4-5 as a starter, 202 passing yards per game. So, like, what I'm saying is, it doesn't really matter. They're both very mid. I think Aidan O'Connell is definitely going to be the guy to start the season, considering the fact that Antonio Pierce trusted him to save his ass, to save his job last season when he took the interim head coaching job.
I don't think he had a choice.
And he did. He could have put in Brian Hoyer or Jimmy G again. I mean, like, he easily could have put in Jimmy G again, saying, "Oh, we paid him."
I'd rather
to
play Aidan O'Connell than Jimmy G.
Exactly.
I'd rather smooch on Jimmy G.
A fourth-round quarterback to come in and save his ass, basically.
You know what's amazing about football podcasts in July is that we're having an intense debate over Aidan O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, baby.
And we're trying to parse through it. Like, Lord, we need the Chiefs to commit another crime soon, so we have.
It'll happen next week. It's coming. It's coming.
We're actually overdue, I think. There's probably one happening as we speak.
Do you think? Is. Yeah, days since last crime committed, they need to update that board soon.
We're talking about quarterbacks a lot this episode, so let's just keep the train rolling here. Broncos. Let's talk about Bo Nix. He is favored to start over Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham, according to Pro Football Talk. Given the current makeup of the Broncos, is it a mistake throwing their rookie into the fire? Zach Wilson, we have seen him repeatedly over the last few years with the Jets. He was touted to be starting with the ones at one point, and now it seems like that might not be the case anymore. So is this Sean Payton trying to save his career here and say, oh, we started the rookie, he's a rookie, so give me more time? Or like, is this probably actually the best move for the Broncos?
You want to talk about, we're very keen to like harp on quarterbacks that are in situations where they have like a ton of playmakers, and we're like, oh, is it, are you actually good or are you not? And I think, Slaps, I know you'll be on board with me, but like,
hell yeah, let's
weird when Sean Payton doesn't have a guy named Drew Brees, that all of a sudden people are like, well, what are you going to do? Are you actually coaching, or were you just chilling and largely watching one of the greatest quarterbacks of the generation just manifest its way and totally prop up your career to this point where now you're like, oh yeah, you're so good. Like, let's see if you can resurrect the Broncos. You want to know what, Sean Payton? Go ahead and prove you're one of the greatest coaches. Take one of these 3 asshats and go win some games, and then we'll talk. But until that point, like, I don't care which one of them is starting until if Sean Payton can't prove that he can actually coach up a team and not just like watch a team just kind of unfold and have. You want to talk about ass saved by one of the greatest defenses, that Saints defense where they had all those bounties and they were just ripping people's heads off. Like, that also made your career too. So like, your DC at the time could have largely been supportive of, of propping up your career. So I think this one, it doesn't matter. We just talked about the mid-off of the Raiders, but I would much rather have the 2 quarterbacks the Raiders have than whatever the hell Denver has going on right now.
Well, I
agree
think
with that.
I look at this from a PR perspective. And to me, it's like, okay, look at the Broncos. Yes, I'm a Chiefs fan, so I'm a little biased, but I look at the Broncos, I'm like, this team's probably going to fucking suck. So if I am Sean Payton, why would you not start Zach Wilson? Because we know what Zach Wilson is. He can make some plays, but ultimately we know what he is. And I think he's going to lower the bar enough that obviously they're still going to suck no matter what. Suck with Zach Wilson for a while. Then you can switch to your new shiny rookie quarterback who hopefully will have at least a little bit more offensive productivity. And you can say, see, we've got our guy. Like, we just needed him to develop. We got our guy now. And Sean Payton saves his job for a couple more years. Like, to me, that seems like a no-brainer. It seems very weird to be like, we drafted this guy. I'm super high on him. We're going to throw him into our bad offense immediately as a rookie. And then everyone's going to have question marks after week 5 and not know what the hell's going on.
Well, Sean Payton
he has no tools.
He's got 3 tools in his quarterback room. But Nick, I mean, you can't. I guess okay. Let me restart. You can't bench the guy that when you first saw him, you said he was bigger than you thought. So at that point, you've already shown you're max horny. You can't put it back in your pants at that point. So you have to just go with it and just be like, super horny for this guy. He was bigger. I gotta start him. He's cute, whatever he was saying about him, and I think you just let it roll with Bo Nix.
I think the more surprising news about this whole situation, regarding Zach Wilson, is that he got engaged this past week to somebody that's under the age of 30. I thought he was a MILF hunter. What the fuck happened?
She's pretty attractive too. They just announced. No, he didn't get engaged. I think he got married, didn't he?
I think he got married.
No, I
think it was married.
engaged.
No, they're engaged. They announced their engagement.
No, the Lions middle linebacker got married to an influencer.
Nicolette Delano. Christian McCaffrey
Rodrigo.
just got married.
Wait, I thought
shout out to Christian.
No,
they
he
weren't
just got
married.
married.
They just got married.
Zach Gillis was at his wedding, which is hilarious. I saw a
I don't
picture
know
of
who
Zach Gillis there.
is.
Comedian.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, Shane Gillis or Zach?
Or
I know
Shane.
Shane. Yeah, okay.
Shane
Yeah,
Gillis.
Shane Gillis.
I'm Googling
When you
I know
said
Shane
Zach-
Wilson. I was like,
Yeah.
Zach. I know it's Shane.
It's his cousin.
know him.
Not as funny.
Olivia Culpo, smoking hot.
Yeah, she's
Just stating that. I mean,
I'd shake her. hand.
CMC is a catch for sure, but she's
Honestly,
like, maybe as
he's
good
probably
as
one of the best
human
looking
being
dudes in the
can get.
NFL. He's definitely up there for sure.
Okay. This is fun. Best looking guy in the NFL. Go.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Christian McCaffrey.
Jalen Hurts.
Saquon Barkley's also really good looking.
Saquon Barkley, he's just got a little bit of acne. If he can get some, what's I don't
Proactive?
know what the, tough acting, tenactin. That's John Madden's thing.
It's on your feet.
I don't know. Well, maybe he should try some on his face because if he cleared that up, he would be like 10 out of 10. Right now, he's sitting at like 9.3.
I was gonna say he's pretty good looking.
That's
dude.
fair. Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney scares me. That man looks very scary.
Fear boner.
Yeah, no, that definitely. Could you imagine just like looking out your window in the middle of the night and that like creepy
Just
smile?
smiling.
Yeah, nightmare
See the
fuel.
golden grill coming through
Fair,
your window.
fair. Well, good for Zach Wilson.
good for
Looking at pictures, she looks like a lovely lady.
Yeah,
Well, I'll say.
she does. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's talk about the Eagles. Let's talk about their Kelly green uniforms in Week 17 versus the Cowboys. Really, what I want to talk about is just uniforms in general. What are your guys' thoughts on just NFL uniforms? Because I'm of the belief that I think the NFL is the best sport. That's my belief. We're sitting here doing a podcast about it. We do it all the time. I love this sport. Why would you not try and look as cool as possible every single game? Because it's not like you can't afford to. And I really don't understand. I get it for like you have like your throwback jerseys, which usually look like shit. And then you have your main jerseys that you wear every single game. Why are you not doing cool jerseys all the time? I just don't understand. Are you guys for cool jerseys or no?
I'm for cool jerseys. The problem is when
Are you guys cool or not?
when you get all these people in a boardroom to try and design a jersey that the fans are gonna like, they end up with what the Lions' new jerseys look like, which are just terrible. They look like they were trying to appeal.
Lion slander.
Oh, yeah, I can't say one single thing about Detroit.
Cancel.
You can if it's something nice. It's just nothing ever is nice.
No, the Lions are a very good team. I've said that from the beginning. Playoff team, all the way. But
I actually like
their
Lions
new
jerseys.
jerseys are disgusting, like just absolutely terrible.
I
The
like
Kelly
them.
Green jerseys are freaking sick.
The Kelly
I'm
Green
all on
jerseys
board
are
with
really
Kelly
cool.
jerseys.
Like, and I
but-
just don't understand why more teams don't do that. Like, why do you not
But
just have cool jerseys every game?
I am a little concerned about them wearing Kelly Green against the Cowboys because it seems like that's like a real high risk, high reward kind of situation
True.
where you win and it's like, hell yeah, we
It's
beat
like-
the
those are
Cowboys,
like-
which is awesome.
It's like college or high school and you have homecoming is what you're alluding to. Like you want to wear the good stuff on teams you know you're probably going to beat,
Yeah.
but not risk it, roll the dice on
Yeah,
something
Right.
that
You don't
You
want to
also-
lose in your cool uniforms. That really ruins the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but if you wear
They're
cool uniforms
uncool.
every time, then you're bound to lose some. But you don't feel like, damn, not only did we lose, but we lost wearing our cool uniforms because you're wearing cool uniforms every single time. Not only that, but like when you wear cool uniforms, you feel like a badass, and you probably play a little bit better too. So I think that should be taken into account as well.
Speaking of cool ass jerseys, did you guys see the Ravens' new jerseys
No.
that have? It's like a purple helmet with gold outline, and then their jerseys are purple with gold number outlines as well.
Hold
It's
on, we're all
pretty
Googling
fucking
it.
sick.
Oh yeah, that is cool.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
why do you
nice.
not wear just make this your normal uniform? If that's really what we have to do here, then that's way cooler than what you currently have anyway.
I wonder if this
So
is
just make
big
it your
jersey.
uniform.
Because I bet if you have an alternate that you only wear like once or twice a year, I bet those jerseys sell way more than they would because everyone's going to buy the normal team jerseys anyway. But if you have one that looks really cool that's kind of rare, I bet you sell a ton of those and you could probably upcharge for it.
Yeah, this is weird. I'm trying to. I know there's rules. I'm like not good enough to work it, but I know the previous rules were you could only wear alternates twice, and then they were really strict on the helmets that they could wear. I would totally be down like if the teams just like rolled out whatever, like just come up
Yeah.
with something sweet.
Cool. Say your team colors.
ChatGPT says that teams are allowed to wear alternate uniforms and color rush jerseys for specific games. So it must be
Every
approved
game's
by
a
the
specific
NFL.
game.
Yeah.
Week 2 is specific.
Some bullshit.
Instead of week 1 through 17, we're gonna wear these jerseys week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4,
Yeah,
week
because-
5, week 6.
Because
That's how you
the Eagles Kelly Green is
going.
sick. The Seahawks alternates are sick that they wore with like the gray helmets.
Yeah.
The Bucks, the orange creamsicles that they wear.
Oh yeah, I like
Sick.
those.
Give me a hard on.
Like
yeah.
why not?
Yep.
Why not? I guess the NFL has its money reasons, but it's like, can we just see that all the time? Let's just go back. Like,
Or
who cares?
do this. If you really want to appease fans, this is what you do because you don't want everybody I get the whole buying the jerseys bullshit thing. Have a main jersey that you wear 4 times a season, and that's what you sell as your primary jersey that you're selling to your fans. And then after that, just have have 2 or 3 different alternates. You can still post those for sale, and then 2 games a year we're going to wear the orange creamsicle. 2 games a year we're going to wear the red alternates. Mix it up a little bit, make it fun, make it cool. And it also, look, man, I'm sitting on my couch watching Red Zone week in and week out, seeing the same jerseys. kind of hurts my eyes a little bit. Maybe I need something new. So bring in some new jerseys. That's really what needs to happen. And also, you probably could actually sell a lot more jerseys if they were cooler and not as boring.
I agree.
That's
Maybe.
my hot take.
No normal person looks cool just wearing a jersey, though.
I wear a jersey almost every
always-
Sunday.
I
And I do feel a little lame,
They
but
look,
I
they
do
look, they look cool, kind of, but you don't look cool. You don't look like Derrick Henry wearing a jersey.
No, I do. I wear a jersey to bed every night. I look pretty sweet.
Is that
We'll post a
any
picture of that
bottoms?
for everyone.
No, no bottoms. I Winnie the Pooh the whole thing. I just just jersey.
It's like a
That's
night
really
shirt.
last thing, and we'll get the heck out of here. We'll wrap this up. Tommy DeVito's agent. I don't know if anybody here remembers Tommy DeVito. He was the backup quarterback for the Giants and is now presumably the third string quarterback for the Giants.
Remembers Tommy DeVito, bro.
Yeah. Well, his
The nation by
agent,
storm.
who in the notes here is known for being Italian. He met with
He
the
is.
Pope last week.
Famous for being Italian. Perfect.
He is.
Did you guys see him meeting the Pope? And I just could not believe it. I'm like, this guy is milking his 10 minutes of fame for everything it's worth, and I'm here for it. Like, I think it's great. Like, if I was in his shoes, I would also be trying to milk as much publicity as I can because you know that it's not going to last very long. So,
Oh man.
I'm
Anything-
kind of concerned that this guy, what kind of connections he has. I don't know. Is he running
Well,
the world?
he's got
We all know
nuclear
Joe.
missile
We
codes.
saw the presidential debate. I don't think Joe Biden's running the world. Is it Tommy DeVito's agent? Is he running the world? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves.
I didn't think about that, but that is a good point.
Yeah,
Like,
not
how
only
did he make it
meet,
this far?
not only did he meet the Pope, he brought the Pope gifts, and he brought him a custom football with the Pope's coat of arms emblem on the custom football. So
He's trying to
this
weasel
was
his way into
this
being
was
a
planned.
wise
This
man.
wasn't like he crossed the Pope on the subway. Like he wanted to meet this man.
It's an all-time quote. He's trying to weasel his way into meeting the wise man. All right, boys, that's it. Let's move on. Let's get out of here. For anybody who's made it to the end of the show, greatly appreciate it. Love all you brainiacs.
This episode had everything. We started with Brian Daboll and ended with the Pope. what a cool episode.
This was a great one. If anybody's interested in blog writing or writing articles for us, please, we are looking for some top tier talent to join us and write for us over on leatherbrains.com. So if you're interested, go over to Twitter, hit the apply button, and fill it all out, and we'll check you out. Once again, everybody have a safe 4th of July. Please do not blow any fingers off. We love all
But
you
if you're gonna
guys.
blow fingers off, send us pictures, please. We'll share them. We'll share all of them.
Yeah, send them in.
I don't want to
Yep,
see
send 'em in.
that. That's pretty
Send 'em in.
gory.
You might win
Over
a
under
prize.
2.5 players blowing off fingers.
I'm gonna take the under on that.
Well, I like the overs. I want to live dangerous there. That's kind of cool.
Nah, I'll play safe.
Overs are more fun, especially in the
They are
States.
more fun. I agree with that.
If you send your firework injuries in, you may or may not win a prize from us.
All right,
You may not, but you might. Who knows?
you're gonna get to see Alan with a jersey on at night.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. Love you guys. Love all you brainiacs. Thank you. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed this and you made it this far. Let's go. We
Are.
Out.
Oh yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out leatherbrains.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.